Bank of Japan's Tankan quarterly survey showed that ratio of companies complaining of labor shortages rather than excess staff was at its highest level since 1992. Companies in Japan's service industries are struggling to hire and retain staff as the labor market becomes the tightest in decades, and they are increasingly taking unorthodox steps to alleviate the shortage. Companies are looking at other steps, including looking to housewives and retired people to come into or rejoin the labor force. In some cases, it means offering better working conditions for some staff, even if this requires raising prices. In other companies, they are reducing services they offer by cutting opening hours or delaying expansion plans. Japan's jobless rate stood at 23-year low of 2.8% in August, reflecting a strengthening economy and shrinking working age population in a rapidly aging society. The labor squeeze can reduce the speed of economic development and even curb some economic activity altogether, hurting Japan's chances of a period of sustainable growth. So in a nutshell, we can tell viewers that labor shortage is worsening in Japan and companies there are struggling to hire and retain staff. And ratio of firms complaining of labor shortages has hit highest since 1992. And companies in service industries are struggling to hire and retain staff as well. Firms are taking unorthodox steps to alleviate labor shortage. And US auto giant Ford Motor has formed a team to accelerate global development of electric vehicles and cars, whose mission will be to think big and make quicker decisions. One aim of Ford's Team Edison, it is called Team Edison, this is to be identify and develop electric vehicle partnerships with other companies, including suppliers. In some markets, the new team will be based in Detroit area and work with regional Ford vehicle electrification teams in China and Europe. China, India, France and the UK all have announced plans to phase out vehicles powered by combustion engines and fossil fuels between 2030 and 2040. However, Ford has not altered its previously announced plan to spend $4.5 billion over 5 years on electrified vehicles, including plug-in hybrids. The new team will report to Ted Canis, the Global Director of Electrification. Ford has created a new team called Team Edison in Detroit area. The team's mission is to work on electric cars and form partnerships over there. Ford has not altered plans to spend $4.5 billion on electrified vehicles. This will be the R&D fund which Ford will be using. And US auto major Ford has recently tied up with India's Mahindra & Mahindra. And Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi has reached London after Transport for London, or TfL, which runs and regulates Capital's transport system, shocked Uber last month by deeming it unfit to run a taxi service and refusing to renew its license. TfL cited firm's approach to reporting serious criminal offences and background checks on drivers. Uber's British management has been criticised by London Mayor Sadiq Khan, who is also chairman of TfL. Khan said the firm needed to spend less time hiring an army of PR experts and an army of lawyers and instead address issues raised by TfL. Uber's license expired on September 30, but its roughly 40,000 drivers are still be able to take passengers until an appeal process is exhausted. So Uber's license trouble in London. Uber boss will meet London Transport Chief today. That is one meeting. We can say that Uber's boss is firefighting in London to revive the company. London Mayor Sadiq Khan is also chairman of TfL. And Mandy, we are joined on this story by our London Bureau Chief Mandy Clark once again. Mandy, would like to ask you first of all, how successful do you think he will be able to, in getting license back for Uber? Though it's a very difficult question, even that's what is on his mind as well. But how successful do you think he will be, and what's the reality on ground?
I think, by and large, most people believe that they will get their license back with many stricter conditions. For example, they only had to pay a £500 licensing fee. They feel Transport for London admitted that that was far too low, and they are looking to charge them probably millions. It's something that Uber can afford, but it seems to be less about really this safety issue, because speaking to many Uber drivers, they all have to get criminal background checks. It's done through Transport for London. It's not done through Uber. Those are the same criminal background checks that black cabs get. So the argument that the drivers aren't safe, well, that seems to be null and void, because they're allowing other taxi firms that go through the same process. So really, many people feel this is more to do with Uber not paying enough tax or paying their fair share, because it really dominates the London market, that they're not paying enough money into the London coffers. So by and large, people feel that Uber's going to have to concede and pay a lot more and add more safety checks. But ultimately, the overall feeling is that they will get their license back. Now, the head of Uber in London has just stepped down, but she has said that it has nothing to do with its current problems, that she already had another job, another opportunity lined up, and that she really feels that someone who is going to be in London for the long haul during this process of appeal really should take the helm and see it through.
Also, Mandy, this new CEO has just taken charge after Travis Kalanick had to take a backseat here. So isn't it more of just coming in front of the cameras and trying to show the world that he's trying to save the whole company, or is it going to have some serious impact on we can say the TfL as well?
Well, the main person they need to charm is Sadiq Khan. He made it very clear, even before he was mayor, that he was not an Uber fan. So, yeah, it might be a bit of PR. It might be getting the face in front of the public, showing that he's taking charge. But really, behind the scenes, the person he has to charm is Sadiq Khan, who says he's just mayor, but really he's also the head of TfL, and he is a key decision maker. So getting him on side, agreeing to those conditions, will be probably the linchpin, the key for Uber to get the license back.
All right, thank you, Mandy, for getting us all these details and getting us such an important perspective on this developing story. And moving on, and let's go to digital currency market. Even as China shutters Bitcoin exchanges and US Securities and Exchange Commission or SEC signals heavier scrutiny of initial coin offerings, Goldman Sachs, the banker, has explored how it could help clients trade Bitcoin and other digital currencies. The banking giant is considering a new trading operation involving cryptocurrency. Potentially, the operation under consideration could become a full-fledged team of traders and salespeople. Such an operation would make Goldman to directly deal with cryptocurrency. Goldman Sachs' approach differs from that of JP Morgan Chase. CEO Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan had stated that Bitcoin is a fraud and that he would fire any employee trading it. Now, others have been more open to the cryptocurrency as well.
How many more Bitcoins do we have in there?
And let's go to India stories, where the government expects a helping hand from Reserve Bank of India, which is the central bank, in the form of interest rate cut that could come in monetary policy meeting that has begun today. Now, to boost growth, which fell to a 3-year low of 5.7%. Several experts and industry bodies too have made a strong case for lowering of key interest rates in view of subdued inflation and urgency to propel economic growth, which appears to be reeling under impact of demonetization and GST implementation. So government expects RBI to cut rate. RBI is India's central bank, Reserve Bank of India. The rate cut is expected to spur growth. The monetary policy meeting, the meeting has started today. However, the decision will come by tomorrow afternoon. And consumer price index based inflation is at 2.36%. RBI's monthly monetary policy decision will be announced tomorrow by afternoon. India Inc. has already made a pitch for rate cut by Reserve Bank of India. So we are joined on this story by our economist Yaj Bhatt. Good evening to Mr. Bhatt. First of all, how hopeful are you that RBI is going to go for a rate cut, or will they maintain a status quo on this?
Good evening, Sumit. I'm really wondering what exactly the RBI would be doing, because it's essentially, to sum it up, it's a crisis of 3 C's, where we say, the first one is CPI. So there's inflation is measured using CPI index, which has shot up to 3.4% in August, whereas in the last month it was 2.6% in July. Which has definitely, resulted in inflation to shoot up from 4.5% from 3.9%, which I don't think so would be a very comfortable sign for a central bank to actually react to by giving a rate cut. Because if you give a rate cut, there are chances that probably your inflation may again shoot up further. The second C that we talk about is consumption. Now, I believe this is the second year since 2015 rate cuts have happened, and almost 175 basis points have been cut. And you haven't seen consumption picking up for some reason. And this, in a classic economic theory, we call it as stagflation, where you have a series of data where a lot of rate cuts are happening, inflation is not going down, and consumption doesn't pick up.
All
so
right.
This is a worrying sign for the central bank. And finally, it's the currency. So even the currency has shown a kind of a decline, which I think would be a concern which an RBI governor would keep in mind before he gives in a rate cut.
Thank you, Mr. Bhatt. We will come back to you, Mr. Bhatt, once again on this important story where RBI is likely to maintain status quo, or is it going to cut the interest rates tomorrow? It will be clear. But for now on, the monetary policy meeting has started today in Mumbai, and by tomorrow afternoon, things will get clear furthermore on this story. So one side is saying that RBI should cut interest rate, that is Indian corporates and government, while the other side is the experts and analysts are predicting that government is going to not get any benefit out of it, and RBI will maintain a status quo in its policy meeting tomorrow. Well, let's go to one more global story. Indian Finance Minister Arun Jaitley is on a 2-day visit to Bangladesh capital Dhaka. An agreement to extend a $4.5 billion credit line to Bangladesh is expected to be signed during this visit. The credit line will help Bangladesh to build a complete several new infrastructure projects. Finance Minister is also expected to inaugurate several projects there. And and Saad Hamadi, our Bangladesh bureau chief, had to say something on this.
Indian Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has arrived in Dhaka on a 3-day trip, during which he would sign a dollar credit line agreement of $4.5 billion that India is extending to Bangladesh. He will be meeting with Federation of Indian and Bangladeshi Chambers of Commerce and Industries to look into the business and economic prospects, where Bangladesh's Industries Minister Amir Hossain Amu is also likely to be present. Tomorrow he will meet his Bangladeshi counterpart, Finance Minister Abul Mal Abdul Muhit, to sign the dollar credit line agreement. The credit line will be used for Bangladesh's infrastructural development for improved regional connectivity. The two finance ministers will also review the economic cooperation between the two countries agreed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his visit to Dhaka in June 2015 and Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's visit to Delhi in April this year. The finance ministers will also inaugurate the Dhaka representative office of the Export-Import Bank of India, and also a cashless transaction in visa processing by the State Bank of India. These are the updates we have so far about Indian Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's visit to Dhaka, which is considered to be significant to streamline the economic opportunities between the two countries. At the Bangabandhu Air Force Base in Dhaka, Saad Hamadi, WION.
Let's go to Japan, where the Japanese auto major Nissan has said it is recalling some 1.2 million cars that did not meet the specification of domestic rules for initial final inspection of vehicles. Approximately 1.2 million units produced between October 2014 and September 2017 will be subjected to re-inspection. The announcement came after Nissan's shares slumped in Tokyo on reports that tests were performed by staff who were not certified to check the vehicles to Japanese government standards. Recalls have been a global phenomenon, with major Japanese auto companies, including Toyota and Honda, have recalled millions of cards. And in a bid to prevent deceptive ads to manipulate elections, of course, social media giant Facebook is going to hire more than 1,000 people to look into the matter. Facebook's announcement came as leading social media network handed over some 3,000 advertisements with Russian links to US Congress. It's believed that these ads posted ahead of US elections on Facebook intended to turn people against one another. Reports suggest few of such ads appeared to amplify racial and social divisions. These ads appeared to be linked to a Russian entity known as the Internet Research Agency and violated Facebook policies. Facebook also plans to ramp up investment in machine learning to identify and take down ads violating the network's policies. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg had last month announced a crackdown on efforts to use the leading social network with elections. And Flipkart has approved a share buyback plan to repurchase employee stock options worth $100 million. The overall corpus reserve for buyback of shares from employees is over $100 million. ESOPs are a way to retain high-level employees. The buyback will be largest in the startup space, with employees getting an opportunity to liquidate their shareholding in the company. The move is expected to benefit nearly 6,000 employees. The process is expected to be closed by December. This is not the first time Flipkart will be going for an ESOP or buyback plan. And let's talk about markets in India. Indian markets have regained losses which were suffered in the last few trading sessions. Indian markets jumped since the morning today, and they ended in green as well. So they ended in green for third consecutive session. And they have gained, Sensex regained over 200 points. And if we talk about Nifty, it also ended in green. It's up 0.72% by the end of the day, while Sensex was up 0.68% by the end of the day. And we are joined by analyst for today evening, Mr. Amit Gupta. Good evening to you, Mr. Gupta. First of all, a quick check from you. How do you see the trade happening for the rest of the week?
Good evening, Sumit. So Sensex and Nifty have finally rallied a little bit today after a few days of downfall. On Friday, it was a little bit of flattish market, but today the markets were up again 70 points on the Nifty, which is a bit of a relief to the investors. There were mainly three reasons behind this. One is the domestic factor, that the domestic SEBI has actually had issued a circular in August that any loan defaults, even for a single day, will have to be reported to SEBI by the company. So this comes, and they have now withdrawn the circular just one day before it was supposed to be implemented. So this comes as a relief to many of the local companies. The other is the global scene, where the US markets are doing really well. That is on the back of the wholesale index, the manufacturing index coming very strong, and the US markets running on an all-time high, which is helping the Indian markets also. And finally, the auto sales numbers for September were really good. The two-wheelers and the commercial vehicles, they were all in the positive territory. So for September, we can see some very good run in the auto industries. So I see the markets rebounding this week, coming on the back of the domestic buying.
Well, thanks, Mr. Gupta, for getting us all these details and giving us such an important perspective on this story. That's all today we have in this edition of WION Wallet. For more news and updates, stay tuned to WION, and thanks for watching us.